Ancient military figures appear to be morphing into globe-trotting diplomats. A decade ago, China's terracotta army arrived in London to herald a new era in Sino-British relations. And now the Bayeux Tapestry is due to land on our shores. It may be a bloody and gruesome depiction of an English defeat, but the ever-canny Emmanuel Macron calculates that our affection for the medieval masterpiece will allow it to serve as a powerful signal of warm relations after Brexit.
I remember going to see the Bayeux Tapestry, I think I was about 6 with my mother, and being completely entranced by the fact that women had sat and stitched this extraordinary story which goes all the way around a room. So that long-standing relationship, not always friendly, which we've had with the French, but a long-standing and absolutely firm relationship with the French is one that he's making a bond which has never been done before by offering this extraordinary piece of work and this story that shares our heritage.
I think it's one of those beautiful relationships which does go through ups and downs, admittedly, over the past 1,000 years since the Bayeux Tapestry, but which is still 1,000 years later incredibly strong, and which is a vector and a product for cooperation on issues of tremendous importance which impact both our countries.
If you want to find a symbol of the Entente Cordiale, you can perhaps do no better than visit the statue of Charles de Gaulle, the leader of the Free French, who was given refuge in London during the Second World War. But de Gaulle personally embodies the perennially scratchy nature of Anglo-French relations. In 1943, Winston Churchill described him as vain and malignant, and 2 decades later, he vetoed Britain's application to join the EEC.
The legacy of de Gaulle, always to put French interests first, even at the cost of ruffling feathers, is upheld by today's occupant of the Élysée Palace. Behind tomorrow's friendly and cost-free gesture lie some raw French calculations about how they can use Brexit to their advantage.
When it comes to French interests, economic interests in the Brexit negotiations, he will be hard-headed and he will push for a tough outcome. I don't think he wants to have a collapse and disaster. I think he wants an agreement, but yeah, he will be very tough and single-minded in defending French interests. Yeah, they will say you can't have your cake and eat it. If you're in the single market or aligning yourself with the single market, fine. If you're not, you can't cherry pick that you want to be in this bit and out of that bit. And yes, of course, where there's an opportunity of draining jobs away from the UK into France, they will be taking it.
And that gap left by Britain and the lack of leadership in Berlin has provided President Macron with a space to shape his vision for the future of Europe, which he's been developing for years.
There was originally a realization that Europe in the last 10 to 15 years hasn't progressed fast enough on a certain number of issues, and that we needed a new force for proposals. And that was what his speech at La Sorbonne, which outlined a whole host of potential areas where we could integrate more, where we could have more cooperation between European member states and more integration at European level.
I think at the moment on the European scene, President Macron is the dominant personality. And he is out there, as we've seen, taking initiatives, trying to help in international crises, cutting a dash on the world stage. And he is biding his time, waiting for there to be a German Chancellor that he can go to work with on building Europe.
Emmanuel Macron will signal tomorrow that France will always have a special place for Britain in its affections. But as the UK walks away from the EU, France is already looking to new horizons.